Welcome everybody to Office Hours, Core Office Hours 33, when structure leads to project success, aka good paper makes good friends. I'm your host, Jose Caballer, and bienvenidos, ni hao, hola. Here's our mission: is to empower creative leaders to transform global businesses through design. You know, I was thinking about this today or yesterday, and more designers, especially UX and people trained in design thinking in the C-suite would really make a huge impact for the world. And we are global. We're here looking at it from the sky, from our space station. I'm your cruise director, and our voyage is going to be an hour and a half today. We're going to drop in. The topic is really about how good paper makes good friends. It's about agreements. We're going to show some examples of how contract structures are done with clients, etc. Core is one part of the alignment, but continuous alignment of the project also requires some of the things that make the project super smooth, which is everything's on paper. We know what we're doing. We know what we're delivering, etc. And I forget how that's so important. And it's something that I been reminded a lot in the last 6 months. Core Q&A, asking questions, is a conversation. Don't let me take up all the time. You can interrupt me, you can raise your hand. And then the upload at the end is like what we got. Music and no cookies. I'm thinking of renaming that to freestyle or something like that, so that it's less nondescript. But let's start with the drop-in, and I'm gonna model it. The drop-in is name, location, and what you do for a living. My name is Jose Caballer. I am here in the space station in the sky looking over the Pacific. No, I'm not. I'm in Los Angeles. And I am a designer, UX designer. I'm a C-suite guy, yeah. CXO is my favorite title, and Chief Creative Officer. Thank you to Todd Mendeloff for that. Chief Experience Officer. I like cruise director. Like, you know, you guys are too young for the Love Boat, but you know, dude with a fro and like short shorts and like what was his name? I forget. He was awesome. I want his job. So welcome. Was it Gopher? No, really?
I think Gopher would be
a
hilarious nickname
not
for
Gopher,
you.
Not Gopher. The African American gentleman. No, don't. No, I'm not liking that. No, it's fine. It's fine.
He was the bartender.
Yeah, I like that guy. He was kind of goofy. I like it.
Yeah.
What is the most recent book you've read and why? So Pape and Billy Bala and a few people here in the calls brought up Ray Dalio and Principles, and I'm like, okay, cool. That sounds cool. I also worked with a lot of people from Bridgewater, or some people from Bridgewater in New York, and had them at my parties, and they were super cool. I really liked them. They talked a little bit about the culture, so I started reading the book, and I'm like, wow. And I read it because he's interested in how to do governance and decision making and assessment of personalities, and like there's a feedback system that's like real time that's super amazing, and it's something that long term, both from I've been studying for a really long time. He mentioned a book called An Everyone Culture, Becoming deliberately developmental organization, which I happen to have bought already, just intuitively, and just any page I open it to, especially for you, Becky, is just brilliant. Like how you not just create the container or the brand or the attributes or the value system, let's say, and the rules of governance, but how do you make the organization do that on its own in real time, like almost like self-repairing DNA, you know, like it's just the organization is built to do that in itself over time and grow and evolve the culture. And it's pretty brilliant, but I'll let you know when I'm done reading it. I'm halfway through, so I'll shut up. Be shorter than me, please. And I will pick Pape, who's back from...
Hello, everyone. My name is Pape, or Aurelio, but I go by Pape. I'm based in Panama City, and I'm an artist. I do art. Sometimes I do brand strategy, but I'm an artist, and I love character design. That's what I'm focusing right now. And the latest book I read is The Practice by Seth Godin. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you. You're doing good. You're doing good.
The Practice by Seth Godin, and I guess the biggest takeaway that I've got, he has this metaphor for about creativity, and he talks about juggling as a creative practice, and he says that it's the only thing that matters is focusing on the action and taking action and just creating, not much about the expectations or the results of what you're doing. So he basically says, like, before starting to juggle with many balls, just focus in just throwing and throwing and throwing and throwing, and then the catching will eventually get done, you know? So I'm applying that to everything that I do, like not putting too much expectations on what I do, just doing it and yeah, it's getting things done. And I choose Todd.
Hey, Pape, I love your blackboard, man.
Thank you.
I want a tour of it. Good to see you, man. This is the book. Oh, I'm Todd. Sorry, I'm Todd. I'm in Los Angeles. I am a strategist, a business guy, a product guy, creative filmmaker, also a writer, and that takes me to this book that I got turned on to from a Malcolm Gladwell podcast, where he was talking about one of the chapters in it, but it's a book by this scholar on literature and writing, I guess, and it's about story inventions and kind of not plots, but like what stories are about and themes they explore and that sort of thing over time. And I really love it, and it's helped me a lot. To my big takeaway is what there's this concept of what stories are about without talking about the plot, right? So what really are the themes that a story might be exploring, and I think that goes kind of for any creative, like what is something saying. So I recommend it a lot. Wonderworks by Angus Fletcher. So there we go. And I will pick Iona.
Iwana to Iwana. Like I wanna.
Thank you.
Wanna. That's how I remember it. Wanna. All right.
Thank you,
Todd. Hi, I'm Ioana Balcan from Brașov, Romania. And lately I've been working mainly in Web3, still do all the others kinds of works like packaging design, illustration, brand strategy, and branding. And the book that I keep going back to and have reread some parts of it recently is Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. It's because I felt for a long time that I can't communicate. I was there's a Japanese term called hikikomori, where you're like kind of shut in, closed off from the world. And at the point that my business was failing, I decided to become more social and use my voice more. But this is very useful because the idea is that we are taught to have a weird, what is described as a violent language. Either is bureaucratic, either it's somehow aggressive. And the idea is to speak more to needs rather than reacting, aggressively. And, Marshall Rosenberg has actually negotiated in wars between tribes and people trying to cut out their woods and things like that. It's a wonderful book for anyone who would like to try it out. Becky, did you go?
No,
I had a little
Becky.
mistake earlier.
No, you
But I
went,
can-
but that was before we started recording. You're going again.
Okay.
That was warming you up. Yeah.
Oh,
I'll go again. Hi, I'm Becky. I'm from Toronto, Canada. I am a brand strategist who focuses on internal branding, or some people know it as employer branding. So if typical traditional branding attracts a tribe to a product, I work to attract a tribe to a company to make sure that that's a good fit for both. The most recent book, actually, is right here. It is Maslow on Management, and it is by the American psychologist Abraham Maslow, who's best known for Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And this was, I believe, actually published after he passed away, and it's various notes and stuff that he meant to go into this book. That was essentially applying the hierarchy of needs in the workplace. And it is fascinating and genius, even though it is kind of rough cuts of his notes and journals and things like that. I think his relatives decided it should be published, and I'm really glad they did. It's really, really cool. Oh, and I'll pass on to Mario. If Mario's
Yes, hello. Yeah, here I am. Hi. Hi, thank you. Yeah, so I'm relatively new to the design world, so I'm just getting started with web design, right? But I'm already interested in just soaking everything up as much as I can, you know. So I'm kind of in that this discovery exploration phase right now. The book that I'm reading or that I've let's say heard via audio or read via audio a couple of times currently or recently is Built to Sell by John Warrillow. I don't know if you've heard of it or read it. And it's actually, oh, you have it. I see. Okay, cool. So yeah, I actually saw I think it was a podcast or interview that Chris Do did on YouTube, and he was interviewing an agency CEO, the GIF agency in Portugal, CEO, and they were talking about automating their business, so creating processes inside the agency to sell their services, and basically going as so far as to productize the services. And this was one of the books that she mentioned. I think her name was Joanna. Yeah, so that's the book that I've heard already a couple of times. It's very interesting. It's interesting also because it's not just like a checklist style or a set of rules to follow and do. It's more of a story. Like it takes you on a fictional story of a agency owner and like all the pitfalls, and he meets a mentor, and this mentor helps him make the decisions that he needs to ultimately automate his business and then sell it. So yeah, I mean, I'm not thinking of building a business to sell it. Actually, it's just the automation part that's, I think, really interesting to create a product and to be able to sell it easier, right? So that's the book. So it's Built to Sell, John Warrillow. Yeah. Who's left?
Jinder is the only person left. Jinder
Sohal. Okay. Thank you. And hi, Jose Caballer, by the way. Hi, Jose.
Hi, Mario. Welcome. Thank you for
Hi,
being here.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jinder Sohal, and I'm a UX designer. I'm here in London. The book I like to mention is I've discovered bell hooks, and I feel sad that I haven't discovered her before. I think because she passed away, her name started to trend, and I became curious because I found the quotes were very powerful and meaningful. And her famous book is all about love. So I've started to read this book. It's very meaningful, I guess, for me personally, because I come from a very patriarchal society. I have lots of brothers. I'm the only sister. And there's been kind of like, even a recent wedding I've been to, the status and the rituals are around reinforcing patriarchy. So what Bell Hooks she does really well in the book is to kind of like unwrap what love means, and it's moving away from, kind of romantic love and desire, and it's just tapping into like a spiritual growth of self-love and being open and receiving love. So she kind of untaps that and unravels that, given the different levels of, the kind of structures and the power relations and the patriarchy, and it doesn't work for either gender. So I've started reading that, and it's kind of helping me on my journey. It's very, very powerful, very moving. So it's
What's the title of the book?
All About
Or
Love.
the author? All About Love.
Yeah, by Bell Hooks.
By Bell Hooks. Thank you very much. That's beautiful. Thank you, Ginger, and thank you for being here.
Oh no, pleasure. Love being here, and awesome to see everyone.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've been. It's dinner time here, so I was eating.
No apologies needed. Yeah, I have a new thumbnail of myself in what do you call it, in cyberpunk anime like style, and I'll use that whenever I don't want to be on camera. So yeah, we should do that for everyone. Let's talk about the sharing rules to keep us moving. Here they are. And the reason why we use sharing rules is my experience. I was a part of Entrepreneurs Organization, and I was the co-moderator of our group. It was a 10-person cohort mastermind. We met every month. And we did this training where we learned to moderate, and Gestalt feedback was actually, or entrepreneurs are pirates. We are space pirates in my case. Like, we don't want to be told what to do, and we don't like empirical, like, like, well, this is how it should be done. I'm like, who the fuck are you? So it helped us a lot have these conversations that you couldn't give advice. No advice was the rule. So that's rule number one. You have to, we don't give each other advice. You have to share from the I. You should do it this way, bad, or blah, blah, blah. Like, if you're sounding like a professor, you're doing it wrong, and that's okay. We're not going to stop you, but it's okay. Here are a few ways I've done it, or I've seen it done. An easy one of speaking from the I, knowing that it's a primary or a secondary experience. Like, look, when I was X at Razorfish, this is what I did and how I did it, and you're always sharing the story of exactly what it is you want to say, in the format of your own experience, or I saw somebody do it this way. It's really to create, like you just mentioned, nonviolent communications. It's really to create an environment of non-hierarchical, like, conversation as a circle. It's also used in yoga, and it's used in therapy. It's used in a lot of things. But yeah, and if you do switch to, like, advice or to your soapbox, I won't necessarily stop you, but I will note it. So that's the rule. Soapbox away, and then I'll say, you know what, that was a little soapboxy, but thank you for sharing. So we have a topic today, and we're experimenting with having a fixed topic. I'm a little nervous about, like, the timing on it, and Todd and I have been working really hard to figure out how best to do this, and we're just going to try it as an experiment. An insight that came through this morning was, I'm a creative and I'm very nonlinear and ADD, but I realized that structure helps innovation, creativity, and flow to occur. The more structured in the agreements, it creates safety too. We know what we're delivering. We know what the rules are. We know, like, what the project is. We know where it is. Account management and project management are all about that, and about having really clear agreements. And it's process, but it's also just particular components and rituals, because it's non-linear. It's happening continuously. And I have a sort of illustration for it that I've used in the past. I'll have to come up with a new one, but it's akin to, like, anchors, like, ping, okay, agreement. Oh, here, communicate. Here's a communication, confirm, hey, is this right? And then communicate again, and then confirm, and then communicate again. It's like when you're sewing, it's like that back and forth between here's what it is, confirm, here's what it is, confirm, roger that, control, roger that. We're coming in at X height, roger that. Like pilots do it. You know, there's always this constant communication of vector, where you are, your altitude, etc. Same thing in projects. And the interesting thing about the flight metaphor is autopilots are great and process is great, but you're always going the wrong way. Two stickers that I got. What's your vector, Victor? Yeah, roger that. It's at Burning Man, I got 2 stickers. One said, you're doing it wrong. And the other sticker was, but you're going to be fine. As long as you're kind of, you know, communicating and getting feedback, it's actually a good thing, right? You know, doing it, you got to do it. Like, you know, Aurelio was saying, Pape was saying at the beginning. So today we're just going to discuss some examples of how projects are structured. And we just brainstorm, like, what are 6 very simple things, 3 in terms of the setup and 3 in terms of the long-term control that will help you. And I'm not the best at doing this, but people like Todd, who is a master at this, there are people that are really good at doing this. So I've learned to do it even naturally within my own engagements, even though sometimes I have a lot of barriers to doing it, but it's actually a really powerful tool. They're powerful tools. So with that in mind, I'm going to breathe for a second. And we're going to do a quick exercise. If you're on stage, you can participate, just talk out. We're brainstorming for about 5 minutes. We're going to brainstorm. You know, what does project success look like to you? Like, is it great creative? Is it, you know, what is it? So let's, anybody in the chat or anybody in the audience, Becky, what does a successful project look like to you? Two, 3 words, like.
I'd say a transformation is the first thing that comes to mind.
Ooh, dang, I like it. You went straight for it. Beautiful. Of the people or of the company, of the org. People in org.
Yeah, or behaviors even, right? Or associations. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Pape, what does a successful project look like to you?
I'm thinking something that tangible, like some deliverables can be measured. Like there's some things that can be measured. I don't know how to phrase this. Like
stuff gets done.
Yes, basically. Like, but that can be measured. Can be like certain deliverables that were said they were going to be done and they were done, or like maybe like even like how happy is the team. That can be like another measure of success, but it's something that you said at the beginning that you wanted to do, and at the end you can measure it and you can see it and you can like quantify it.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a yeah, thank you. Jinder, for you, what's
yeah, I mean, all of those are really good, because I think it's like collaboration, and then getting the ideas and creativity is just kind of like you get more ideas, so you kind of filtering out the, you know, you got an array of different people coming together, and they can just brainstorm and then go to the next level. So that kind of relaxed and safe space is the right kind of formula to kind of like get together and collaborate.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I added friendly polarity, easy conflict. Todd and I were talking about this, I think earlier in the week or last week, regarding like Socratic kind of like conversations, that it's okay to disagree. I don't have a problem with that. It's just people are like, oh, well, you know, this person's the boss or the expert. Let me like not disagree, but respectfully, the first word. I think I have a different point of view, and this is my point of view. And like, oh, interesting, and you listen and you like engage with it, and that level of like, I do it by putting people to compete. Like 3 stylescapes. What's your point of view? What's your point of view? What's your point of view? Here's your attributes. Go. That kind of friction creates innovation to me. Like it's some. I was accused by someone, a friend who was a deep psychology major, who observed that you do she said that I do tiger meat. Like I bait people, like I throw meat in the middle and like have people like go and see what the conflict is. True, and I need to be very careful not to do that without consent of the people that are participating in the experience. Let's talk about what you're afraid of. So clients hate the work. I'm afraid of hurting people. I'm a people pleaser, so like I want to give people everything they want so that they accept me and love me and don't abandon me.
I guess like, yeah, not it's around that topic, like not being able to manage expectations, you know, like expectations get out of control. Maybe what you deliver wasn't what was expected, but because there was no clarity from the beginning, that's like my biggest fear, like not delivering to the expectations that were set. That's
a huge one. Your pride as a Leo is like, I want to get it done, and if I don't, and the people aren't happy, you're like, I failed. Yeah, it hurts you. I hear you. Becky, afraid of.
Yeah, I think I'm afraid of like the status quo winning and like not having an actual impact.
Wow. You're afraid of things not changing.
Yeah.
Yeah. The empire winning. You are a rebel. That, you know, I'm with you. I hear you. I'm not even going to comment on that because that sometimes comes out in my tenor or in my attitude, and then in conversations we've been having about the work we're doing. You know, Todd was my client at Disney, and I interact very well with corporate. But like, I also have an underlying chip on my shoulder, and I'm like, fuck you. And you can't have both of those attitudes together because it comes out. So when it comes out in me, I have to be present to it and loving it unconditionally. So that book that Jinder mentioned, Unconditional Love, even for the corpies, because they're just people in a structure. You know, even Darth Vader was a father.
I'm afraid when people don't speak out in time or are afraid that something's gonna happen and just the project is not moving forward because everyone is afraid of what they might say or might do, and they're not expressing their needs, basically.
Yeah, the unsaid. I have that fear too. Let's call it the unsaid, and designers are really good at that. We just sit
It's
there
like
quietly,
you feel something. Yeah, you feel something is wrong, and you're trying to figure it out. You're asking. You're trying your best to communicate, but there's not. People don't want to talk and express themselves.
What's that movie, The Bell and the Butterfly, or like it came out a while ago? It's an indie film. Most of you might not remember it. Todd, you might remember it. It was a French gentleman. He had a car accident. He was paralyzed completely. He couldn't speak. He could only blink. Like, that's how you feel when you are not saying what you're saying, but you almost feel like, oh my God, do people know what they're doing?
I remember Alfred Hitchcock when the guy he's kind of paralyzed and people think he's dead, assume he's dead.
yes, and on that topic, I think like my biggest fear would be lack of accountability. Sometimes that goes also with not speaking up, but it's also when like people start blaming others, and sometimes it's just about getting the project done. It's not about whose fault it is, but sometimes we get lost in communication and people start defending themselves, and it's just about like how can we be accountable for this and move the project forward. Like that's something that when it happens, it sucks, and and then Jose's fear comes is you don't want to hurt people, but you want to be honest. But how honest can you be? Like, so that's a big one.
The diving bell and the butterfly. Thank you. And and that Pape is huge for me. It's one of my least favorite things when people just start taking people down to protect themselves or to bring themselves up. And I've experienced it in my company. I've experienced it in different kind of situations. You experience it all the time. People do it all the time. And Donald Trump used to run The Apprentice that way. It's like, take the people down next to you, which is horribly toxic. And it's like embedded in our culture. But at the same time, you need accountability. So one thing I've learned from what I call the dark burners is like, they're like, they say it in a very crass way, which I won't repeat here, but like you get your shit together first, and then like then you can talk about people or not. It's like you can only change yourself, and feedback mechanisms then need to come into place. So I'm not going to comment anymore. Let's just choose one or two of these.
Can I throw one in?
Yeah, please.
All right, the best way to put this. Project economics not aligning with the aspirations.
I just put losing money, but let's call it economics not working out. Economics not working out. That could be low profit, like no profit, losing money. I was really good at
it definitely, I mean, on one level, yeah. I mean, there's also just the unsettling thing of like, how am I trying, you know, how is what the aspiration is of the client aligning with, you know, what we have to deliver for the budget, and how do we
track that?
manage that? Well, how do you manage it to try to, I mean, some of it's very core stuff, right? Of like, how do you get alignment in terms of what the client aspires to have, and the thing that you and I have talked about a lot of, like, when, you know, caviar taste and Walmart prices kind of stuff sometimes.
Right, which is a common issue with startups and with clients, yeah. And even with us, I try to deliver caviar, even though they're paying us for a can of tuna. Okay, all that said, I love happy teams, friendly polarity, learning, etc. I love all of them. So what we want to see is a great project that we do great creative work, the team changes, the team learns, we collaborate well, we have easy conversations about what's working and what is not, all these tools, and we're all learning, and without, you know, being afraid of not delivering on expectations, of, you know, revisions in a structured way, of everything is said, there is an unsaid, which is a big one that I'm curious from Becky, like, how do you do that? But the last one is, you know, like at the end, the value to price ratio, or the fact that there is that impactful, that whatever the effort was actually is driving, I wouldn't say the bottom line in the old way, but the triple bottom line. The people are happy, we're not screwing up the planet, and like we're, you know, profiting from it in a way. Pape, you have your hand raised.
Oh no, I had it raised a long time ago, sorry. But actually, I feel that the economics are actually like a good outcome or reflection of good expectations, having clarity on how many revisions there are, and being everything that is unspoken that translate in that the economics will work and flow if all of the ones before are like covered. So yeah.
Beautiful. So I'm going to move us now to, from knowing that these are the things, how do we do this? And, you know, today's topic came from a lot of places. Ioana, we were having a conversation about this. And I'm a big, it's not that I'm afraid of structure. I'm actually, without going into that itself, I know all the tools. So in researching this, just finding the examples was really eye-opening, because I'm like, oh my God, these are such great contracts and some great tools. I did have people that helped me with all that, just clear. And then my biggest contribution was making sure that the language wasn't too like legally, and I had a lawyer revise all our documents, and I told them, look, we want it to be friendly and easy to understand. And they redid it legally, but with our brand in it for our agency, which was brilliant. Best $4,000 I ever spent. Memo of understanding, which is an interesting one, is an MOU. And Todd, you can add to any of these. It's basically a memo saying, hey, here's what we understand, without going into a formal document. It can be delivered in an email, and a document, and anything. And the other person says, oh yeah, for sure, this is what I understand. There is some structure to it, and there's variances in it, but we'll talk about that in a bit. Statement of work, which is that's a legal binding document, which is, here's the scope of our project. And most engagements are bound by a statement of work. If you don't have that, you're doing it wrong, and it's fine. You're going to lose some money. Change orders, which is like, hey, here's the statement of work. Let's reference it. This is why I call it anchoring. And now you're changing the approach. So we're going to issue a change order, and here's the exchange that's happening: either more money or you reduce the scope and replace the new stuff with it. They have to choose. I love doing that. There's two roads. In this road, you pay us a little bit more. In this road, it costs a little bit more for you. It's a bigger investment because that's what you want. And on this road, we swap it for something else in the statement of work. We'll give you this, but we're going to take away that. It's just an exchange of time. That's it. Tools and practices for supporting the structure over time. I'm horrible at meeting notes. Like I do murals and stuff and action steps and next, and then like keeping it all going and the threading. I'm not the best, but Todd's really good at it. Like just how the structure of the meeting notes. And I'm like sitting there going like, yeah, okay, that's what we need to do next. God dang, all right. I have stickies. I have stickies on my computer. I have stickies on my desk and index cards. I have stuff on my wall. I have it everywhere. So I have to kind of like track it. I wish I could develop software where you can tattoo your to-do list electronically and it's just on you and it just gets updated. That would be awesome. Follow-up emails. Also not great at that. Like, hey, this is what we talked about. This is what we understood. Want to put it in an email. Because like an MOU, it's legally binding if it's written somewhere. Best efficient if captured above. It's a goal for 2022 for me to get better at it. I'm not horrible, I'm just not as like diligent with it because we talked great. Okay, I'm gonna go do some ADD, out of mind, out of sight. And then backlogs, which those I love, which is not a to-do list, but it's a backlog and you check it all the time. That is really a foundation for me of like, I have like a Kanban board here in my house where I'm like, okay, this is what I'm doing. But then you got to do the ritual. You got to have people hold you accountable. So those are, any questions, anything you want to add to this?
What about SOPs, like things that show process in general?
Mm-hmm. What is an SOP? Statement of process?
Yeah. No, it's
standard operating procedure. Is that the?
It's like, let's say from onboarding to nurture, you have very specific steps that you repeat, refine, fine tune, and keep applying with every project that you do.
Yeah.
Or process mapping. SOPs, process mapping. Yeah.
What I find is that stuff that's principle driven. So that communicate, confirm slide that Jose had up. Do we see that already, or am I imagining?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm looking for an example.
And that, because the thing that what I find is that different process works for different groups of people, and by being principle driven, you can pick and choose, recognizing that like some groups really react well to certain kinds and maybe more process, and others react to less process, or sometimes less process initially, just because sometimes it feels to people, depending on what their experience is, things are becoming about the process and not about the project. And that can be kind of, again, depending on your audience. So it's like a core principle, like what's the profiles of the people that I'm talking to. That it can be more effective and less effective. And by being principle driven, you can, choose, and you can know, hey, I've used this in the past, I've used that in the past. And if you get too attached, I find if you get too attached to the process must be one way or another, it can get frustrating to you because you're like, oh no, it must be this way, as opposed to like, hey, you guys down to try this kind of thing. So.
Yeah, I was going to show, if I found it efficiently, kind of like how I outlined that in any engagement in terms of allowing to, like, where are we? And to reiterate kind of what Todd said, and this is an example also that happens frequent enough, and it's somewhat baked into the agile principles. which is, no plan survives, the landing. So I present like here's this process, here's where we are in it. And, but just to be clear, it's probably gonna change. So different vectors, I use process, and I also use like the SOW and the specific things. Music.com is a perfect example. Like we had a bit of a process and it changed based on a lot of variables, including some client challenges. And there's team challenges, all these challenges that allow you to, where you have to potentially like, shift the process a little bit. So what Todd was saying is that there's an ongoing communication. But part of it is just for me, it's like call and response. It's like, I'm not going to show it because it's going to take us off track, but it's a good thing to put a pin on. I'm taking advice in terms of making sure that we don't get all eat out on a new topic. But I like it, and that's something that potentially we can really illustrate more and more as we journey through this conversation. I'm going to take a pause and I'm going to breathe. Any other comments? Any other ideas?
One other quick thing about backlogs is just, and this goes for, I think, any of these things, is like being careful. I find that you need to be careful about, there can be actively managed backlogs, kind of like there's a regular grooming process to it where they're revisited, are super great. But sometimes backlogs can become just a dumping ground to like make somebody feel like, oh, hey, the idea was captured. And that, the concept of grooming, and again, I think it's kind of a principle with any of these things of like revisiting, why you're doing them and in a light way, right? And adjusting accordingly. So backlogs with active grooming on a regular kind of basis.
Yeah, I was gonna say that since I learned core and practice it, prioritization like is one of the most wonderful things, because even with backlogs or any kind of tasks, if you apply any kinds of prioritization exercise or principle, it can be a Eisenhower chart or the actual prioritization in core. It helps you decide what you actually need. Instead of, oh, I need all of these all feel urgent, I need to solve like 20 things on this list.
Yeah, that's a big one. Expectations and Rayan, tell me if I'm pronouncing it right, Rayan. Should I put the SOW in the proposal or in a contract? There's pitches that are about the creative, right? And ad agencies pitch this way, like where they're being either paid potentially or not, but they're investing in getting this account because long term is going to be a lot of money. When you're doing smaller projects with smaller clients, with SMEs, with small businesses, it's always smart to, even within the proposal of here's our work and this is what we do, to put the scope in it just as an actual thing. So that's my kind of point of view in general. I'll show you very quickly this is what it's a combination of, like, okay, this is the overview, what we want to accomplish, my understanding of it, what the goal is, at even illustrating, like, and keep in mind that I did this with the executive stakeholder. Like, I put an outline together, they gave me feedback, and we worked together on this to present to the CEO of the company at the time. So then, like, we did a whiteboarding session before a contract was signed, and we actually did the core prioritization exercises, and in a slightly different way than how we do it in core, and then that became the kind of summary of the top three things we're going to do. And like, the tattoo for execution for me is this, right? 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. Like you can do, and you're only gonna end up doing two, just to be clear. No matter what, you're gonna probably fail at the third one. But you adjust the expectations. Talk about alignment and why it matters, because all the stakeholders have. This is all, Ryan, in the proposal. A lot of this comes from core. So, this is one of the illustrations I wanted in terms of expectations, but with anchors. Like the anchors are the spots in the process that stop you from. Core is one of them, but then where are you doing them? Are you doing it after the contract? Sure. If you're doing before the contract, you're doing a little bit before the contract is signed. There's all these nuances to it that we don't want to necessarily get into. But at the end, having alignment really matters. And I really shared this was before it started. So then after it started, then like when we did these exercises, everyone was very like on board. This was all in line before even starting the project. Like here's some tidbits of like what I already see that can be improved, assessment, etc. But that wasn't the SOW. This is not that list of priorities. Ultimately, was the way we were controlling the scope, but that changed on an ongoing basis. It was a very different contract. It was a retainer. It wasn't like a fixed fee contract. Anyway, it was what I call fixed fee variable scope. Like I can control the scope throughout it, and that requires a lot of trust from the client and re-expectations over and over again. Like you have to reset. Here's where we're at. Here's where we're at. I would do a Friday report to the CMO and the new CEO every Friday. Here's where we're at. Here's where we're behind. I'm concerned about this. It was a very transparent report. Anyway, so here's an SOW example real quick for a client. It's not the entire SOW, but you get an idea. Like this is in the style of the old school style where there was descriptions of what each of the kind of like, there was activities and deliverables, which is a slightly separate kind of like, thing. And in this case scenario, we kind of merged them both into describing the items and the description of what they are and what you're going to get. I like to separate it now a little bit more. Will you be sharing this on Facebook and Discord, Jose? Yeah, I have to share the deck. Here's the, I don't know what you were referring to, this deck or the EO one that I just shared.
Yeah, EO and the SOW. Yeah.
Well, here, I'm going to do this. I want to encourage everyone to show up to these. I am not going to share neither of these publicly. So if you're watching this recording and you want to get this, you have to show up to a call. Otherwise,
okay. So you're.
I'm not going to remember. I'm honestly just not going to remember to do it. Somebody remind me to, and some of this stuff is very valuable. So show up.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
I screenshot like crazy if I don't have access to anything else and I need it right away.
But these calls are extremely valuable, but you got to show up. You got to be there. I'm so happy that, it doesn't matter how many people show up. What matters is that, it's all valuable. Here's how I do it now. Now, this is the same exact thing, just in slides. Project objective. Boom, boom, boom. And this is from listening. And when I'm listening, I'm writing down the three things. And at the end of the call, I go like, these are the three things that you want, you need, is that correct? And then I like right here, like this. This is what we're gonna do over this amount of time. 3 months is just like a standard. Like this is my experience. 3 months is usually what it might go over a little bit, but yeah. Product experience improvements, education, artist community onboarding, go-to-market strategy. Extremely ambitious for the 3 months, to be clear. And then splitting it into three, describing each of those things and splitting it even a little bit more into like what the potential broad activities might be, and then adding the backlog. So to your question, Rayon, like exactly what pages we want to deliver, and then I would like say, hey, here's where we are in the mid-sprint or in 1 month and a half of the project, and do the same thing with the client. Like honestly say, here are the challenges, here's where we're delivered, here's where we're behind, and the client this doc is not set up to share with anyone with the link. It can be a commenter. But again, Now, Marlene, you can do it. You can also directly message me. I can give you access to anything you need. What are the pages that are getting redone, et cetera. I would go back to this, that even though the sprint activities might change a little bit or might not all be happening, I wanted to make sure that I delivered at the level of the things that were expected that needed to be done. And sometimes you had to change it. The not doing change requests though is a mistake, like not memorize, putting down on paper, like, okay, we changed this, you know, I just would do it on the phone and not necessarily document it, which is a mistake. But this at least at a minimum gives you a roadmap. Another mistake here was that I did this. It wasn't creating the backlog collectively with the team, even though I asked the team to participate. At the end of the day, whoever is going to be accountable for it needs to own whatever the activities are. Otherwise, don't do this. Yeah, don't put a list of here's what to do. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I can't overemphasize that collaborative part. When, I mean, sometimes you're going to be doing work where it's you, like you're a solo contributor or working directly with a client, but you know, the collaboration part of it, the co-creation goes to like proposals, and you know, it speaks to all of this stuff. The one other thing that I found to be really helpful as a mental process for me, and also a way to kind of call out, you know, the things that we were talking earlier about, things that we want to aspire to and things that we are afraid of, is a section in a proposal that's just called assumptions, right? Or something that's open issues. And the idea being that if you're scoping, oftentimes you're putting an SOW together where you never can have perfect information, and because you don't have perfect information, you want to get your client something where you want to make sure you have a safety net, where you're not just, you know, saying, oh, you know, I'm signing myself up for unlimited work here until I get to a place where I'm going to say to the client, hey, it's got to stop. And using assumptions, just quick bullet points, or kind of open issues as a way of calling out to the client in the proposal, and ultimately migrating that stuff to an SOW of like, hey, these are unknowns or things that are not clear. And because they're not clear, you know, it's going to have some impact. It's something we have to just go in clear-eyed and open about recognizing. And you could, it's kind of like an alignment on here's what we don't know, right? So
that's very, like, the summary for me, what I heard from that was like, there is this multiple levels. You can do the deck, and then you can do like the document, and like have them be, because in the case scenario of larger projects, you will have them be reviewed by legal, and the legal is not going to want the PowerPoint. So for a CEO in a startup, that was great. For the presentation, that was great. Then for the contract, the same content in another format. And you know, here's the joy of it. The joy of it is that if you do it collaboratively, which I've always done it with other people, you have someone in your, you know, group of like people that are executing your projects with you who does do that, you know, well. For me personally, what works for me, I'm not that solo creative guy who's going to try to do all his stuff and learn it and go watch some courses. I don't even take courses online. My ADD is way too powerful. The way I learn it is by partnering with someone to do it. And then I make it better. I format it. I make it really nice. And I try to understand it, or I ask questions. I'm like, you know, I don't like the wording here. Can we make it this? But I don't pretend that I want to be that person in my practice. I want to be the wizard. I want to do creativity. I want to do these beautiful things, and partnering with a person that is good at both those things. So I go both ways, but strengthen, like, you know, in creativity and facilitation and design, but I do know a lot of the business stuff. And then partner with somebody that is, you know, knows all the business stuff, but also is creative and can do, like, that's the perfect yin and yang in general. And that's when you see really great relationships. EO, the the person who was my executive stakeholder was actually a filmmaker and a writer who happened to be a C-suite guy his whole career. And we work perfect. We're like super symbiotic. He sends me concepts. I kind of go back, I illustrate them. I get the references. We do core. I align the team for him. He's like, I love it. And one of his feedback to me was that I can do high low. I can do the top level change management, Becky, transformation of the teams and bringing them together. But I can sit there with the designer and fix their typography and deal with the concepts and those things, which is very tactical and what the traditional role is of the creative director. But the fact that I can do both makes me, I can dance, I can sing, I can act, I'm like a triple threat. I'm like George Costanza made a joke about that I don't remember now. But so the change request is simple. It's basically these are all forms, like tax forms. Like, what is it that you're doing? What's the priority? The date submitted, the description of what happened and what we're doing as an even exchange of hours. They needed an investor deck, and instead of the work that we were doing for a campaign originally, and we just said, look, we're just going to work and focus on the investor deck and making you guys ready. And it was a really powerful startup. Estimation, approval, signature by the CEO. Great. Now we know what's happening. So backlogs, we talked about a little bit.
The only thing I'd throw, Jose, sorry, the only thing I'd throw in there is sometimes, in the speed of things and the depth of stuff that's going on, sometimes, a change order can be hard to get to immediately. And sometimes you really want to communicate out. In fact, I would say this is the most important thing. If something comes up that's out of scope, right? That you, in a good-natured way, identify it. And it's like, oh yeah, we would love to do, that's really great. We'd love to do that. I think that that's going to be out of scope of the current SOW, but we can talk more about it, or we can run a change order or what have you, just so you're calling it out, you're identifying it both for yourself, you have that sense of what the scope is and all of that, and for your client. But then if it can sometimes take a few days or a week or whatever to get around doing the change order if you're not on it immediately, just getting it out in an email is a little bit about these other things, and its own separate kind of email. Hey, per our last meeting, per our last call, whatever it is, X thing is we're excited about. It'll be out of scope of the current SOW, and we'll be sending you a change order, and kind of any high level things that you might drop into the change order that allow you to maybe start working on it right away once they've acknowledged it via email. It's a little bit like the memo of understanding, right? You're getting stuff. This is back to great paper makes great friends. Like you're getting it out there, and you're seeing it's about clarity. I mean, we talked about clarity. It's about clarity.
Clarity, and in spiritual practice, or not in spiritual practice, in human dynamics, there's the masculine and the feminine. Clarity is the masculine. Shiva, blue, is intellectual, and then passion and chaos. So we as creatives, we're shaman, we're channels, we're two spirits, but we stay in the creativity and in the possibility, and that's where we live, because that's what we have to do. When then we have to have clarity, we feel that we're going to hurt people, like we said, in the fears. And this was a challenge that I've always had, where being a creative of who I am, I didn't want to hurt people. I wanted to please. And again, is that masculine or feminine? I don't know. It doesn't matter, but it's love, right? It's the mother. It's wanting to nurture and give, but it's a business. You got to make money and you got to survive. So clarity. And then the last thing, and I really, Pape, you can go next. What Todd said or shared in his experience, I see it, and I acknowledge it in the executive role. It's just a conversation. They're not gonna abandon you. If they're there in the conversation already, they like you and they're wanting you to do the work. So you have to have the difficult conversation saying, look, this is out of scope and let's talk about it. And like, we can do it, of course, but it's going to take more time and it's going to cost more money. It's kind of that simple kind of thing. Even today, in the last year, my fear of not having those conversations with either my team or the clients caused me so much stress and so much distress that and my journey, even my burn, even like everything was like, look, my relationships, everything, clarity, even if it hurts the other person. I did it recently. I literally did it recently where I just told somebody, you're not supposed to be here. I'm sorry. And they were pissed. They were pissed because it was like a shift, an abrupt shift. But I was being honest at that point, and this was post Burning Man. And I was like, do I feel guilty and shame for like hurting this person? I'm sorry, please forgive me. I needed to do it. You know, it was clarity. It wasn't done in the nicest way, but it was clarity. All right, Pape.
Yes, I guess like going back to the expectations part, like sometimes when I'm doing creative work, let's say illustrations, or I'm building a brand, and it's a big part of the expectation is how it looks, you know? So that makes it, sometimes I nailed it in the first time. Sometimes I need some iterations, some changes, but you know, like the expectation is to basically do something that looks cool, that it's nice, that will work eventually. Like, and what if like those expectations are not being covered and you already got through the revision part, you know? Because it's hard for me, like, I really want to get the job done, you know? And basically if I wasn't in the capabilities of delivering, or I didn't read really good the client, I like something happened in the process that maybe I tend to take responsibility all of the time. Like, you know, for me, I don't blame the client. I always take responsibility, like maybe and I always do the best to meet those expectations visually. And here I'm talking specifically to something visual because they might not like it that much. There's something they don't like, and like you have to change it. And that's also where the co-creation starts coming too. I don't take it personally. What I do is that I'm co-creating with the client, but if I stick too much into like, there's only 2 revisions, and suddenly the client came up with this amazing idea that there was no way to come up with that idea before. It's just coming on place, you know, like something that I do, and I tend to do it a lot, but I feel that I should just charge more. That's what fixed it. I just charge more. But it's like, I really enjoy getting into those creative jams with the client, because it's where the project gets like more personality. It's where it starts to come alive, you know? But how can I protect myself to not like give too much? Because I get excited with creative projects. Like you put me any creative idea and I jumped into it. And so, yeah, what would be a good balance to have in those situations?
I hear exactly what you're saying. And what you're saying is actually a unique problem to your practice, but not unique because designers also suffer from this or have this challenge. And I'm going to share it in the context of this project, Iowa World, which was in 2004, 5 or something like that. It still looks fresh today. It was amazing. This was an illustrator in London. I don't remember their name, but we took the assets, and since it was all geometric, we can iterate it. And so 2 teams were working on this. One was my team that was working on the development, the flash, the production, getting it detailed. I was like, think of me as the cinematographer, the digital guy who was trying to make this work. It's an interactive piece. It has music. It has all these things. It has all these interactions. The Maraca guy was awesome. Multiple agencies were involved, and so that issue of like, is the illustration right? So the style was already chosen. So next it was like, okay, is the arm exactly in the right place? Is it look right balance? Is the circle too small? It was these very detailed crits. And the other team, the executive producer we were all friends from Art Center. The executive producer was a friend also, and or from the other team. He was a principal. He had a producer, but he didn't let the producer do their limiting job and just kept on doing it. So I knew after the project that he lost money on the project because he was willing to do everything. And my producer, God bless his soul, and also it was harsh. He said he put the responsibility of the details of the artwork on the other team, even though we had some responsibility out of it, but he didn't want to take it. And when the client asked for more, said no to them, we had a very profitable project with a contained team. The other team took on all the costs and didn't have a profitable project. At the time, it wasn't that I felt good or bad. I had to mediate between the client, and actually the person was actually here last week on our call, or on our last call. And I voiced it to him during the call a little bit, or in our conversations recently, that I apologize for like being so harsh, and he's like, oh, don't worry. If you wouldn't have done that, I would have asked for everything, because that's what he did. He just asked for more. He asked for more. And I had somebody who said no for me. Back then, I had to have an enforcer. In the complexity of what you're talking about, Aurelio, charging more, time and materials, like the more you eat, the more you'll pay. Jam sessions, like just working together to get it resolved and sketching it out. All those things, the more intimate the collaboration is, to get, last example, KPMG, big consultancy, tax auditing. I'm designing tax auditing software. I had a big ass cubicle with 2 monitors. I brought the whole executive team in, and we spent an hour and a half designing together. Like I showed them stuff that was in progress, and they gave me feedback. I changed it, boom, 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 boom. Live feedback. Some designers hate doing that and can't do that. But remember, I can sing and I can dance. So Aurelio, Pape, more money, time and material contracts, very close collaboration in the sketching phase. Clarity that they like your style, because illustrators or that, it's like this is a range of the work. It's going to end up being and feeling like this. Are you good with that? Great. Now it's the details, like what's the character doing, the little tiny details.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Finish your thought, Todd, if it's related to Papa's question. And
there's a lot of ways to, in my experience, to go about it. You can be very explicit. You can choose to be very explicit. You can say, hey, we said two revisions, we're done with 2 revisions. And we really, we discovered this thing through the process, and we think it could benefit from another revision, and we'd love to explore that, right? And just be explicit that way is one approach. Another approach is you go in having scoped it, saying, hey, we're scoping the, in your head, as hey, we scoped this for 2 revisions. Sometimes it's gonna take a third. I've put enough budget in there to have the third if we need it, right? And so that you're covered, and you say to your client, we're only scoped for 2 revisions. There's like one other end of the spectrum here, but we're excited to do this. It's out of scope, but we're eager to make this succeed. So we'll take care of it, right? And you can even run a change order that says that. But by being explicit like that, I find that like you're gaining cred with your client. Oh, right. Instead of it just kind of being this incrementalism of like, hey, oh, we need another revision. It's out of scope. You don't actually talk about it openly and all of that. And they just kind of assume, oh, okay, that's just fair game. That's just how it goes. And then all things in between, you split the difference with the client. We'd love to do it, but can we kind of come to a middle ground here? We'll cover half the cost, and you can we can run a change order that covers this amount of the next revision and that sort of thing.
Thank you, Todd and Jose, for your answer.
Iguana.
I was gonna ask, what if you do everything possible, meaning you communicate, you offer solutions, you tell the clients that the scope has been blown up and there's a change of order, and they don't want to cooperate in any way?
Yeah, if they're closed, so here's my advice for all of the global community that is part of the system. You know, whether you're in the Philippines, whether you're in Romania, whether you're in Africa, etc. Like here, for me, like, you know, what I see in general when that situation occurs is that there's a lot unsaid and a lot of things that are not level between the client and the agency. It could be disrespect. It could be that they don't feel like you're good enough and they're not telling you. It could be that they whatever it is that their judgment is, or that they're not happy, or that they're having problems internally, or that they're just assholes.
Okay,
So
let
at
me
that
be more
point,
specific. What if they're not even designers or the main decision maker, but it's the project manager, and you kind of have to answer to them?
So repeat the scenario, like where they're not
So
being
what if
communicative.
they're the project manager, they're not the main decision maker, and they don't know how to do design, but they're giving you advice on how to improve the design?
Oh, got it. It's like a backseat designer. You know, one thing I've said is like, look, you're paying me to design it, right? There's two roads. One, I work on the design and do it, and you look at it and do it. The other is that you design it, and I'll just give you the project, whichever road you want to take. One, I'm not going with you. You design it. And I've been the person, I've written that email, by the way. Like, there's two roads. One we do together, one you do on your own. Which road would you like? It's my favorite metaphor to tell somebody to fuck off.
Sometimes, I mean, I also find that sometimes people are inexperienced. They don't understand that it's not a good idea for a client to art direct that way, but that a disarming way to kind of that open-ended question that Xavier's talked about on other office hours, of like the open-ended question, sort of like asking them like, hey, so what is it about X element? Like, hey, can we make that blue?
Yeah, I asked so many, but there's no cooperation. There's nothing coming back. Actually, they're getting aggressive already. So,
Yeah.
and they feel attacked. And I keep saying, like, I want to solve this. I want everyone to be happy.
Yeah.
I want to feel like you're getting what you wanted, but there's nothing, you know.
Then I think exactly what Jose said is right. You lay it out for him. You want to do it, or you want me to?
I had an experience recently, and it was actually with my future wife. We were doing the web page for our wedding, you know, and it started to become like, it was just a tone that we were discussing that was like percentage away one from each other. Like, really, the difference was like, and it started to like add. And I had to be honest, I had to tell her, like, you know what, I feel like this is just consuming time. Like, this is time consuming. I don't feel this is an important decision to prioritize right now. We can keep moving back and forward into finding the perfect hue and tone of color, which I don't think will make a difference. But from this point on, like, it's either like you trust me and I'll do it, or like I cannot keep putting time into this, because it was like taking every Sunday to build the web page, to do things for the wedding, to save money, and at the end, what mattered was just having the web page. You know, like a huge.
Right. It didn't really matter.
Like the percentage, it, like that didn't really matter, and it was hard. Like, I mean, it was hard to say, and I have to admit, I was also taking it personally. Like, I was like kind of feeling bad in the situation, but I had to be honest, and I had to say, like, you know what, this is time consuming, and I don't really want to be sitting down here on a Sunday doing this. And like, seriously, like, I don't want to be sitting down.
I don't mean to laugh.
No,
I apologize for laughing.
It's just honesty, like, you know, and it's, for me, there, what I try to do when it happens, I go into the deliverables and the time constraints. Like, if the client, and if it happens with the client where I see that it's getting out of control, like, I know the time I can manage to do changes. But if it starts to get out of control, for me, it's a hard stop. Like, okay, we have to.
Well, this could be a conversation that goes on forever. So what we can do in Discord, we can create a private channel and kind of like I want to see like examples and like who the person is. I just had this conversation this morning during coffee with about the cards that we're creating, like with, you know, executive, scenario, open, close, etc. This is a closed person potentially.
Yeah, that's why.
And what are all the solutions that you have? This is where transformation with Becky does, you know, is really powerful. And the executive that I was talking to is my neighbor, and she's a high-powered like woman in government here in LA. And she was just telling me how she deals with that stuff. There is an art form to that. And let's have the continued conversation, but we have to wrap up. So thank you.
I still appreciate the attempt, and yeah, it piqued my curiosity and my interest in how to, you know, how to work with people that might have a certain type of behavior and see it hand on, and do everything and that's possible to, you know, to make it better for everyone.
Look, and one thing at the end of the day that I'll say, just as a quick summary of this, is that the relationship that you form with the founders and with the CEO as a creative has to go deeper than, like, you know, if you involve them, etc. And, you know, it has to go deeper than just like, you know, you're their client and they're your client and you're their whatever, like you're a servant to them. You're there to tell them the truth, but also to collaborate. The EO redesign, the CEO, she was instrumental to landing the design direction. It was a partnership. There's two factors, you know, it was a retainer. So we had time, there was deadlines, but it was like a relationship. I spent the time to build the relationship. It was in person, it wasn't remote. There's all these factors. So a lot of the cultural containers that have to happen, one of them is you not working with a middleman. Like if I'm not in the C-suite or with
that's
the
my
decision maker.
problem. Yeah, whenever there's a middleman, intermediary, everything, like it has a good chance of not succeeding. I've noticed this in many years of work. Whenever I have a direct access to the client, it's a whole different dynamic. But when there's middleman, intermediaries, it's
So let's do our upload. And Becky, I would love, first of all, thank you for being here. My upload from today is, no matter what happens, the more preparation we do, the better these turn out. So thank you, Todd, for producing and help and guiding us. You know, if you guys don't know, behind the scenes, Todd has taken on that executive role of like really driving the system towards where it needs to be, and, you know, answering to the community the question of, like, you know, from the momentum of our last year and in the fall and like DAO and all that kind of stuff, what happened, very clear. I'll be very clear. I needed a stronger foundation for myself personally in building the system, and I needed that to be part of it. If not, I was not moving forward with anything. That's why it's taken so long, and it doesn't matter. You just take your time until the right ingredients are in shape. So thank you. And Becky, the conversation we had, I do want to follow up and have like a brief call with you, me and Todd, and listen to your practice, because I love what you're doing. It's my jam, and you're doing it beautifully. So thank you for doing that. What's your upload? One thing you got out of today that was valuable?
I think
I'll shut up.
I think the theme that's coming up to me, it's so interesting. We get so wrapped up in the work and whether or not like the work will be good, that we, at least I, sometimes forget about the experience of working with you matters just as much. So I think like that's how, like, we're talking about like frameworks and processes and, you know, like change orders and things like that, and how to handle it and how that feels to the client and things like that. So that's my thing. It's making me think about not just the work itself, but what it's like to work with me, and how I can reduce friction there and set everyone up for success. And that's kind of why I made that comment about pre-framing. That was like, you know, if you find you're running into things often, sometimes it helps to just call them out right at the start and be like, hey, I often find, you know, lots of people have opinions about design and things like that. Like, let's all agree now, this isn't about us. This is about, you know, the end user, the client, right? Like, deal. So if we get to that point, and then, you know, here's how we'll handle it, kind of thing. Sometimes it stops people from going there in the first place, I think. But anyway, yeah, this whole thing has just made me think about how I would like to strengthen my processes more so that working with me is a reduced friction and consistent experience, I think.
I was on mute. Choose somebody, Becky. Thank you. That was beautiful. Just pick somebody from the grid of people to go next. Yeah.
All right, I'll go to Ivana.
Thank you, Becky. I really appreciate the pre-framing that you said. I tried my best also do it in steps as I was seeing, you know, possible challenges and issues. What I loved and learned about and keep trying to make this better for everyone is basically just the connection, the communication. That's it. Because I feel that a lot of assumptions, defensive, offensive behaviors are based on, like we said earlier, the unspoken things and fear. Like on the side of the people providing a service or a product, they're afraid they're not going to live up to the expectation. On the other side, you know, can be multiple things because maybe their business is hanging on this, or, you know, but just having a better connection with people. That's what I think it's mostly all about. Plus a well done process. Because with this particular project I was talking about, we were stuck because we didn't have the time. It was so urgent, we didn't have the time to do visual foundations. So, and I wondered, how did I do that before, years before, without it? And the answer was of the team, oh, it was way harder. And now I'm feeling that thing again, with the lack of, you know, the process that was built into visual foundations. And I'll lovingly pass it off to Jinder. Jinder.
Thanks, Ioana. It's really good for me, because I'm an introvert. It's good to kind of come here and have these the talk about, you know, clarity, changes and challenges, and it's really healthy because it's always going to be a bumpy ride. And I like what you shared, Jose, the visual aspect of like the alignment and team building. So everyone knows what is the potential, and then the transparency of what you want to deliver, and the way to kind of like the bumpy bits, you could just be direct, or you it's like be the devil advocate, or be like the third person. But at the end, it's like the bumpy bits will maintain hopefully a strong relationship and a partnership, and it will also be clear if I think Fiona's mentioned this, is like that partnership is like the collaboration is like, are you the right team to work together? It confirms that, you know. Yeah, and I also like the case studies, because to show your stories it helps you all shine, and then it will attract the kind of
the right people. So
yeah.
that's a big one, Jinder. Like, it's, if you're having that problem, it's a positioning issue, and it's how high in the chain you're getting. That's a sales, that's your branding, that's your, like, how you're perceived in the marketplace. If you're not in the C-suite and you're not, like, you know, and maybe, you know, that's not a place that a lot of us are. So my objective is to get creative people in the C-suite. If you've ever read I'm Not a Graphic Designer, that I wrote in 2014, that's the manifesto of everything that I do. It's like to get us in the C-suite. I'm not talking about to service the C-suite. I'm talking about being in the C-suite. Very different things. There's masters and servants, you know, and I'm not interested in being a servant. To you, yes, but not in terms of in the corporate hierarchy. But please pick somebody, Jinder, so that I stop getting political.
Todd.
Hey. I guess the takeaway for me is both how there's so much to this stuff where the roadmap is so valuable to anchor to and to have process and all that sort of thing, but at the same time to have it there to diverge from, and that there's just a dynamic element to it where it's about personal interactions and how things are going, and that there's a roadmap. They're not hard with a very rare exception, they're not hard and fast rules. And I guess that part of that goes back to these roadmaps kind of being informed by being principle based. And that this conversation has been a really good reminder to me about approaching, the problems that you run into in that way, and how that openness to how you approach it is so crucial. Who has not gone? Pape, you gone?
Nobody has gone. You and the last person that went.
I guess clarity. It all comes down to clarity. And I've actually, after this conversation, I've been thinking that I'm responsible for most of the time things haven't worked because I tend to think so big and dream so big that I set big expectations that are hard to accomplish even for myself. So I'm setting myself to failure, or I was setting myself to failure in many projects because I was just pumping the client up so much that at the end I had to deliver to that. And I'm realizing now I'm actually doing something different after Berlin. I'm taking it really down and delivering much more than is expected. And it actually brings the tensions down for me, especially for creating, because I feel like expectations, like they suck. They really suck. They really don't allow you to be free and create freely. So what my takeaway is just be more clear about what I want to do, but clear in the truth, not in the emotion of just like, oh, this project is cool, it's so exciting, I want to do this and this and this and that. No, just like, to be clear, this is your budget, this is what I can do, point blank, just like that, not more, just that would be me. I'm Pape and I'm complete.
Pick somebody, Pape.
Oh, I think Mario. He's from Panama.
Thank you, Pape. Yes, Panameño.
Panama in the house. I can't wait to go to Panama.
Good. Yeah, I think the clarity thing for me was also the theme that I'm kind of taking home with me from the conversations, that like the forms that you could communicate and be clear on the communication. So be it with the different types of media that you just showed, like the contracts or the MOU. So like these things, I think that was interesting to also see the processes that you use and the examples shared here. So I think those are the things that I'm taking home with me.
Thank you so much, brother. Appreciate you being here. Gracias por estar
Thank
aquí. Voy a decir algo, lo voy a decir en español
Gracias.
para que la gente no entienda. Pero
Gracias.
hay algo que nosotros como latinos, como gente de color, o gente que han sido colonizados, cuando juzgamos el proceso de contratos y de cosas que son muy rígidas, como, eso es la gente blanca, ¿sabe? Que hacen eso. Just keep that in mind, que nosotros juzgamos eso, pero tenemos que adoptarlo y actuar como maestros. That's why I made the masters and servants comment, Becky. I am a servant leader, I love serving, great, but the comment was made at that level. Whatever that was, somebody translated in the comments on YouTube. All right, go for it. Mario, pick something.
Thanks. So who do we have that hasn't spoken yet?
Jose.
Oh,
I've
gone.
gone. Yeah.
Oh, no, I did.
Everyone.
I went first. Then Becky.
Okay,
Right.
it's everyone.
Jinder, is that everyone? Oh, that's everyone. Did
Then-
Todd go?
Yeah, it's everyone.
Yep, I went.
Cool. All right. So I'm going to wrap up by reminding everybody what the system is all about, and also talking about what is it that's powered. And it's a lot of really exciting stuff that we're working on, and I'm not going to do too many updates now. You'll see it as it happens. But, you know, education, real world learning, if you are here, it's because you've really gotten a lot of value out of it. You know, you want to, how much value have you gotten about working on real projects, from circles to music.com, etc.?
Oh, it's like compacting 1 year in 3 months, at least 1 year.
Yeah.
I would
Are
say.
Are you a better designer? Is your career better now?
Way better,
Great.
because I saw like a big project, big teams, organization switching. What happens when it fails? What happens when it succeeds? You know, people go, people come. It was an amazing experience. I can't even begin to describe how much we learned.
Welcome
and how
to Burning
much
Man.
better we are for it.
Yeah, well, I love that. Talent, a global creative community of UX designers, UI designers, creatives, and cultural change makers. You guys are really what makes it special, the space station. We're all ascending to the space station in the sky, and that's called mastery of ourselves. Advisory, you know, helping, you know, define culture, vision, and strategy, and design and building stuff within, you know, communities and for companies and organizations. That's what we're about. It's always brought by core discovery. You know, core, you know, the explanation of these 9 circles, those are the 9 exercises. Those are the containers of agreement that radiate out energetically and contain the project. That's the symbol. That's why that's, you know, people are like, well, what's this mean? There's 9 exercises, and there's 9 rings. And as you expand and go beyond, it moves it into the user experience. Think about a ripple effect. Ooh, clever, right? Step-by-step design framework, coresmagic.com. Check it out. There's some really cool stuff that we've been working on that I'm really excited to share in terms of marketing and promotion for it, aside from these webinars. But show up every 2 weeks. This happens every 2 weeks, unless we have a break or we announced it or I'm at Burning Man. We're working on TikTok. We're working on Instagram, even though my Instagram got hacked. Still trying to recover it. It will work. It's okay. It's perfect timing. Core aligns brand, users, and goals. At the foundation, if you just have this documented and you present it back to them, you don't even have to create a brief, just the exercises you did. And then every time you present design, you say, you said this attribute, here's what it is. You said the user needs this, here's what it is. Remember, core simply takes these things, defines them together, prioritizes them, and then makes it a narrow variance corridor. But you need a bunch of other stuff, like all the stuff we talked about today. You can do core and still have a messed up project. But all the things we said today, and I'll repeat them at the end so that you remember them. Please share. We are the system at Jose Caballer. Core is magic. We are the system. Hashtags. Milk and no cookies. We're not doing it today, but we are in it right now. We are the system. Much love. Love you guys. We're done. Wow, that was like landing the space station in a hurry. Hurry in a hurry. Thank you.
Jose, you want to share the new video?
Oh, sure. How do I do that? Oh, I downloaded it. Oh no, it's on YouTube.
Yeah, just it's unlisted, but you guys get a sneak peek.
Oh yeah, let's sneak peek. Only you guys are gonna get this. Oh my God. So first of all, I want to express gratitude to my agent, to my manager, to Todd, who executive produced this video, wrote the script based on a PowerPoint. I want to thank the Academy especially for including sales videos in the new. Actually, you know what? I'm going to play it locally because by the time I find it on YouTube, it's just going to take me forever. I downloaded it yesterday, so here we go. Oh my God, I'm nervous, but you know, hey, here we go. First screening of. Go ahead, Todd. You want to say anything to the Academy?
No, I'm gonna put. Go ahead. I'm gonna put the link in the chat.
Hope this is the right version. Let's see. I think so. It doesn't have the thumbnail, but that's fine. All right. Let me know if you guys can hear the audio. Here we go. It's about 10 minutes. So if you need to go, thank you for being here. Becky, I'm going to follow up with you. Todd, let's make sure we follow up with Becky. I really, really want to do show you what we're working on. We've done it privately with members of the community, so we want to do it with you. Thank you for being here today. Here we go. Without further ado, let me turn off the Spotify though. Okay. Are you a designer or small agency owner and you feel stuck?
Stuck in a cycle of seemingly endless revisions, unhappy clients, and small budgets? Do you feel more and more like a cog in a machine, treated like a commodity, or just not the valued partner to your clients you want to be? If that sounds like you, it's time to level up your game. And you can do it with Core Discovery. What's Core Discovery? Core Discovery is the program that thousands of designers around the world have taken to help them become business-grade designers. Designers who are facilitators, problem solvers, designers who think strategically, and who have earned the status to be trusted and invaluable partners to their clients. If that sounds like something that appeals to you, keep watching. I'm Jose Caballer. I am a designer, brand strategist, and creative director. I've worked around the world at global agencies and boutique firms doing design and strategy for the biggest brands out there. My works help guide startups to raise hundreds of millions of dollars and to exits totaling more than $1 billion. I'm also an educator, and I developed Core Discovery. I was motivated to develop Core to help designers globally learn the business of design, to help them learn to harness these powerful tools and valuable skills, and to avoid a lot of the challenges I ran into starting my own design practice. How effective is Core Discovery? I use the same framework I teach in Core to develop deep and meaningful client relationships at the firm I co-founded, The Group. We used it to deliver superior work for our clients and to grow annual revenues 20x in 3 years. We went from $250,000 to more than $5 million in revenue, landing us in the Inc. 500's list of the fastest growing companies in the US. This is the exact framework I use to work with the countless global brands and startups I mentioned earlier. So let me share a little bit about how Core will help you get out of that rut I talked about. That seemingly endless cycle of revision after revision for your clients, and the challenge of trying to increase your fees to raise more representative of the true value of what you do. Just imagine if you could take more control of your projects, work more closely with your clients, become indispensable, deliver higher quality work, and earn a better living for you and your family. Seems pretty good. But what might be holding you back? Sometimes it's that lizard brain talking in your head, telling you you're a creative, you're an illustrator, you're a photographer, you're a motion graphics designer. You're not a strategist, you're not a business person. Or it might be telling you you're an introvert, you're not cut out to lead a discussion or take charge of a room. Or you might lack the confidence because you've never worked at a company or at a large agency or at a consultancy, and you don't even know where to start. Core was developed to help you with all of that, to make you into a business-grade designer, to make you into a strategic leader, not just an order taker. You're going to learn to facilitate conversations and work sessions that align teams and help you understand a client's customers while defining your client's brand and their business priorities. You're going to identify and develop empathy for your client's pain points, and you're going to make your clients rave about you. To help illustrate more about how Core works, I want to share with you why it works. It really comes down to 3 things. 1, fast alignment. 2, participation. And 3, clarity and focus. To show you the importance and the value of these 3 things, I want to share some quick stories with you, starting with alignment. Getting everyone involved, the stakeholders, on the same page, bringing focus to the problem you're helping them solve by understanding their customers, their brand, and their business. This can be a serious pain. Corporate executives, small and medium-sized business owners, and startup founders can have the worst ADD out there. The work my team did with Intuit is a story that is a great example of alignment. My team worked with Intuit to move its essential sales tracking platform Paymaster into software development. Intuit needed to get a clear definition of the platform's user experience and features. This was a big deal for them. Getting this platform live would translate into vastly increased productivity and more accurate tracking of billions of dollars of software sales and commissions. And we did it. With all the stakeholders in the room, we did Core and defined the user experience in a 1-day work session. And here's another story about our work for another great client, EO Products, and an example of participation. EO Products is a company that specializes in wellness products made with essential oils. We needed to redesign the identity for their star product line, which was responsible for a big majority of their annual revenue. This was a pretty high stakes endeavor. If we don't get it right, they could lose sales. And just like at Intuit, at EO, all the stakeholders were in the room, and they're not there as an audience. They're there to participate. And when you're facilitating and they're doing the work, they own the decisions. Again, we did core, and directly connected to that, we did identity work and redesigned their packaging. They loved it, and it worked. With the new identity and packaging design on their star product line, they're now in more stores, and they have grown their audience and their annual revenues to nearly $80 million. And last story, this one about clarity and focus. This one really shows how leading an exercise to set goals and priorities gives you the momentum you need to move forward. I worked with OneDrop, a health platform for patients with diabetes. We did core discovery, we did identity, and we set goals and priorities that directly inform the launch roadmap. All of this went on to help them raise more than $100 million, launch a great product, and build a community of nearly 2 million subscribers. I love sharing stories like this because they really illustrate how these fundamentals of fast alignment, participation, and clarity and focus.
Bye, Juana.
impact
I know
projects
this
and
is long, but
organizations and why core
I got a
works.
job. I have a call.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
But how are you going to learn
do
the
it.
core framework?
This will be online.
When you sign up for core, you're going to learn all the fundamentals.
You know what?
And crucially,
I'm going to fast forward it a
with
little
skill
bit.
5, you're going to learn techniques, user interfaces like profits.
This is the long sales format. Here, we'll wrap it up.
Trust and become more valued.
I'll give you the link.
Core Discovery has helped them raise their game to engage and communicate with their clients in ways they didn't think possible. You can learn more about Core Discovery below. And if you're ready to enroll, hit that buy button now. I hope you'll join the community of more than 30,000 creatives around the world who have taken my classes on their journey to becoming business-grade designers. If you have questions or just want to connect, hit me up on my socials. Much love.
And your Instagram got hacked.
It'll get fixed eventually. You know, time solves all things, but that was so hard to do, just to be very clear. It was super hard to do for me. I mean, I flowed with it, I did it, but you have to control like all the like emotions and the bragging and talking about, you know, exits and this, and I'm like, oh, it feels like a sales video. So we're getting, and this is the first time I've ever done it, so it'll get better from that. So yeah, but it was really the structure of it was super important, and Todd did an amazing job like writing and rewriting the script until we felt like it was natural, and it has all the things, ingredients, like here's my validation, here's who I am, here's what I've done, and people are like, oh, okay. And then like the projects, and then the stories, the principles. It's like 10 minutes instead of like, and it's replacing this one that you're seeing now is to replace the one on the future sales page. And we're working on other ones for different campaigns and for TikTok. Same video, all like cut into different little pieces, which is the efficiency of creating, like producing and like planning all of it together. And we should catch up, Pape. The last few months have been amazing. So I'm gonna put the music back up, and this is like our goodbye, farewell, Auf Wiedersehen. I don't know how that goes. I'll put the link somewhere that you guys can all access it. Uh-oh, what happened to the music? Becky, you know, how do you have case studies of your projects?
Not really, to be honest. And it's so tricky with internal stuff too, because so much of it is confidential. Like you can't really share. And like, yeah, I think a lot of brands wouldn't even be like that excited about the idea of them working with someone to help with this kind of thing. That idea being super public. But no,
right,
but
because what you're doing is very internal. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a really tricky part of it. But I did just get a yes on a big project that is with a client that I've been working on with for a number of years. It's just like taking a much bigger role. And yeah, they're like kind of employer branding, and it's really tricky. They're huge. It's a massive corporation. So navigating that has been educational.
Yeah, I started making agreements with in the contract. It says that we will be sharing the work now, but it's with a big corporation, you won't be able to negotiate that too well. And with some of the work, we won't be able to do it. But then finding clients that allow us to do case studies of the work. Yeah, anyway, that's a whole other conversation. Thank you, everybody. For some reason, my Spotify is not working, which I think is a message from the universe to say, go get lunch. I'll see you guys next week. And we can end it a cappella with Pape flying. We need to create you a new version of your portal, Pape. That is so good. That should be like, bye everybody. See you in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Discord, get on the Discord. Woo, there it is.